All right, hello everyone. So, this is actually my first time doing it on a Thursday. Wasn't available on the 1 second here. All right, this is the position. Wasn't available on the Monday that I was scheduled for. So here I am. Good to see everyone. Hope you guys' summer events been going well. I recently have completed an event, which means that um, we're back with some more game reviews. And some reflections from my events. Now, after my most recent tournaments, I'm now up to 2455. So that's better than where we were previously. So making some good progress. And I won't actually be playing for a few weeks. I'm back in California actually right now for just some family, visiting some family, and I'm not playing until Washington International. So I assume I'll probably see a lot of you guys there. Um, so that's gonna be my next event. That starts August 9th. So a few weeks until that. We'll probably use these next couple of weeks to chill, of course, but also to um, do some preparation and work on some openings, work on some calculation, and obviously work on some of the reflections that you guys will be seeing now. All right. So, of course, as per usual, I guess for some of you guys, you know, you maybe who are regulars on Thursdays haven't seen me if you haven't attended on Mondays. So I oftentimes just show my games and my journey to GM. And, you know, hopefully this series won't last too much longer. It's lasted a lot longer than I've anticipated so far. And so as I do go through these games, we will, look at some of these critical moments, take a look at these stopping moments, have you guys try to take a stab at some of these positions, giving you guys anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, depending on the position, sending me, of course, your answers privately, and then afterwards we'll discuss, of course, not only the different options, different answers you guys have given, but of course what I ended up playing and the reasons why I either made the right move or not. So we have this first position right here um, in round one of the GM Norm event that I played last week, and let's just kick it off right here. We'll do 3 minutes to see if you guys can try to find the right direction. So for some brief context, kind of help you guys out. Um, we're up a pawn. But of course, black has some counterplay. Queen on e5 is quite strong. Rook on e2 is quite annoying. The knight on f6 is blocked out by our pawn chain. However, there is, a lot of sacrifices looming. Um, and the thing is with a position like this, sure, I could be up a pawn, but things could essentially collapse. At any moment, yeah? So we have to be very careful. We have to be very precise with the candidate moves and the options that we do consider. And this will be the first moment here we'll take a look at. So we'll do let's actually do 4 minutes. 4 minutes. I'm curious how you guys try to consolidate your advantage here. There's actually only one way forward for whites to comfortably secure an advantage and to be able to pressure later on in the end game. So let's see what you guys come up with. White to play. Also, as a reminder, you guys, please don't send me one move answers. I will do my best to respond, but as more people join in, there's no way I'll be able to get to everyone. So, one move answers, I mean, it's just generally not going to be enough. You got to give variations, you got to give reasonings. Remember, you have to anticipate what your opponent's responses will be and what the most accurate continuations look like. You're not going to get it done with just one move here, right? We need to consolidate through means of some sort of variations and accomplishing some sort of clarity in the position. That's not going to happen with just one move. All right, so the 4 minutes have elapsed, but so far have seen some interesting answers, but a lot of you guys have forgotten to consider that in a position like this, not only are we trying to consolidate, of course, but part of that consolidation process is recognizing what Black's ideas are going to be, right? So for a lot of these variations I'm seeing, there's some miscalculations, there's some kind of misjudgment about just how dominant White's position is, and so a lot of you guys are giving either very just kind of not lazy answers, but sort of like just normal answers as if nothing, there's no threats for Black. And in other cases, there's just some miscalculations occurring. So I'm going to give everyone 2 more minutes as I'm trying to respond to everyone in the chat as your answers get sent in. Um, and We'll reveal some of the ideas in this position, and of course, what I went into in a second. All right. So finally, I've seen one solution that's correct. I mean, maybe I'm missing. I now responding to 30 different people in the chat. Seeing a lot of good answers. Um, and as more trickle in, I'm sure that someone might end up getting it. Now I want to remind you guys of what some of the ideas that Black have in this position right here, in the air in this position right here. I mean, the one main one, which once again, like I was saying, a lot of people had just initially missed, is this huge, huge threat of Queen G5. I mean, it's literally a mating threat. And I got at least 10 answers saying Bishop D5. And as I was mentioning to you guys, this is the quote unquote lazy move that I was mentioning, which basically assumes that, oh, black doesn't have anything going on here. We can play bishop d5, cut the queen's axis off to the b5 square, and then queen g5 it literally just mates. Like there's nothing, right? And so, okay, hopefully in a real game, a lot of you guys who had given bishop d5 would have, taken a second glance at it. But remember, we have to ask ourselves, what is Black's idea going to look like in this position? And idea number one is, of course, this Queen G5 move. Okay, so then a lot of people then led to a more active prophylactic option, which was Queen A7. And so I would say about half of the people who sent their answers in all landed on something similar um, to Queen A7. Okay. And in fact, in the first like 2 minutes of me opening up the answers, I saw like at least seven people just give Queen A7 within the first minute and then just end it there, which of course is not enough, but it does go to show that the intuition for a lot of you guys to play Queen A7 was definitely there. And Queen A7 certainly is the number one move to consider for white. But I'm going to also address another move that I think is worth mentioning, which was rook to the 8th check, which is interesting, but what I'll illustrate is the fact that if it takes, a lot of people gave me 98 here, which is just not at all what black would play. And black is for sure going king to h7. I mean, the point is after king h7, black is not worried at all about losing that f7 pawn. I mean, remember, after it takes on f7, there's queen g5, or I guess queen c5 is even better. Right. Okay. Maybe Queen G5 probably is not as. I'm sorry. Queen G5 is probably not as good. Maybe there's some Bishop G8, which of course just loses the piece, but at least it doesn't get mated. So yeah, Queen C5 will end up mating. So okay, the point is that White absolutely has no time to go for this, right? So Rook D8, unfortunately, is just trading away one of White's active pieces for Black's not so active piece, and unless you have an immediate response after Rook to D8, the assumption that Black has to go 98 is not a safe assumption at all. So let's now land ourselves to this idea of Queen A7. And once again, if you just put Queen A7, that's not even close to being enough. Black's natural idea is rook to F8. Black wants to free up the queen, right? Because on Queen G5, there's just simply takes followed by Queen G3. No attack there for Black. So Black wants to defend the rook, or at least get the rook to safety. So rook F8 is a variation that I saw once again. At least half of you guys put in the chat. And after this, I saw some varying answers. Some interesting answers. One of the ones that I actually thought was, I mean, I considered during the game, and is a interesting solution to White's potential problems is rook to f1. The idea, of course, being is that they want to respond to Queen g5 with rook to f2. Now, other than this move being a little bit passive and not really solving a lot of Black's problems, we also need to think to ourselves, like, wait a second, if our goal is consolidation, sure, maybe a passive route or a kind of a slow route like this might work, but you have to kind of ask yourself and be skeptical. Is this really going to turn out well for me? Right? Is this really the path that will save my position? And as it turns out, I mean, I don't remember the full analysis, but I'm pretty sure knight x e4 or maybe knight g4 is the most accurate. One of these two. I think maybe knight g4 is more forcing because knight g4 actually doesn't threaten anything. So knight g4, yes, is the most forcing. Ah, okay, yes. Not most forcing is knight g4 because, okay, on knight e4, I'm not actually threatening anything with that move, so probably white can get away. So knight g4, of course, is threatening checkmate on h2. Pawn takes, queen takes it, and the main point is this rook on b1 is hanging. Well, a very important point, that is. So, I mean, remember, we cannot be careless at all in these types of sequences, right? A move like rook f1, which seems very, very logical, gets hit with black's immediate resources. of knight e4, but mostly this knight g4 move. So it was not just queen g5. It was not just the fact that black has some activity with the queen and the rook. And actually, for the context, I know some of you guys missed it, but the context that I gave at the very, very beginning of black's pieces and how actually the knight on f6 could serve as a piece in the attack ends up coming in, ends up bringing itself in to actually deliver some crushing blows. So that's why rook f1 is a no-go. Well, okay, if we're not going to go something rook to f1, I mean, what can we do? I saw quite a few people give me queen d4 here, which once again does not respond to black's idea of queen g5. So that's just not going to cut it. Okay, so then where do we land ourselves? Where do we what do we do here? I mean, it's a bit unclear. And for a lot of you guys, I think you might have stopped here once you saw some of these variations. Once again, one of the variations that I got the most was this queen a7 followed by rook f1. I got that from quite a few people. Okay, so I want to actually take a step back to the first initial position to get a lay of the lands of all the different possible variations from move one, possible candidate moves, and actually tell you guys what I played, which was king to f1. So, king f1, what is the purpose? Well, the purpose, of course, is just to get rid of the rook, right? In fact, we'll now realize, what we now kind of notice, this rook is very limited on squares. And after, for example, rook to e3, we now have bishop f7, which cannot be taken because of some very nice geometry. So that's very nice. Okay, it's a bit loose. h2 is hanging. But what's the problem with this then? Is there a problem? I don't know. That's for you guys to now figure out. Black to play. Next stopping moment, we'll give it 3 minutes. All right? Try to see if you can find the continuation for black here after king to f1. Feels a bit loose, but at the same time, if it works, it works. We know this from experience, you guys. Calculation is king. As black here, can we find the way forward? Find the best way forward. Black to play. 3 minutes. Some more people have trickled in. So we'll give it 1 more minute. Black to play here. Try to find the best continuations. I know I'm putting you guys on the spot a little bit. It's a pretty complex position still, but try to see if your intuition will go with you in the right direction. All right, we'll give it a few more seconds for you to answer and give your variation in the chat. It turns out there is only one continuation that draws, unfortunately for me as white. So I play King F1, and Brian here, very strong, talented junior, he found with fairly much a lot of ease this continuation, but okay, he's sort of forced to find it because everything else does lose. And so unfortunately, I was not able to get to all of your guys' answers in the chat. From what I saw, though, I saw a lot of interesting answers. I'm not fully sure if anyone gave the full correct answer because, like I said, I hadn't gotten to everyone just quite yet. But we have to go knight e4. I saw a lot of people go the direction of queen h2, which was the main thing that I mean. I had calculated knight e4 as well when I played king f1, but this was the main thing that I just made sure. Okay, there's no perpetual here. Okay, after queen to g5, we can actually go king d3. The queen covers d8, and okay, I mean like white has a lot of pieces. Black actually start the attack is basically fizzling out, and so white is winning here. Um, and so okay, let's look at the most critical variation of knight e4. Okay. So one of the other points, I think I saw a couple of people offering rook to b2, but on rook to b2, we still have take, take, and take. I mean, this bishop takes f7 move is really powerful in a lot of these variations we keep seeing. So knight takes e4. All right. White cannot play f takes e4, so king takes e2. This is what I had calculated. All right. So black actually doesn't have that many effective discoveries, but knight c3 is the most effective. I now go king f1. Doesn't really matter where I bring my king to, but okay, king f1. Queen e2, king here, and I thought I won here. I thought I won. Queen e3, the king is forced into the corner. Um, and uh, and I thought this was it. I thought this was it. So actually, he played the most accurately here, by the way. Which was to, I mean, they're all drawn actually, or they all are the same, but he took on d1 first. And what I had missed was very unfortunate. Bishop takes d1, queen to e3, king to h1, and queen d3. This was the move, or this is the maneuver that I unfortunately had missed. Okay. And, the thing is that like, okay, is this easy to see from the start? Not necessarily. But, okay, is easy and necessary to find, mutually exclusive? I mean, okay, these are things that you have to look for. These are the things that you have to find to take yourself to the next level. And I'm gonna actually walk you guys through my thought process and actually what I realized um, during the game, is that I was super locked into the position. I realized that I needed to consolidate. I realized that I was very close to actually winning this game, or at least very close to pressuring black in a very, very heavy way. And then I saw King F1. I saw King F1. I was like, wait a second, this wins. And I was super, super locked in. I was calculating all these variations: knight g4, knight takes e4, queen h2, rook takes g2, rook b2, rook e3. I was calculating all these variations, and I was like super locked in. I thought I had it, and I played it. I played king f1. And then one habit that I have is that I write down my clock times more so just out of like kind of I don't do it because I struggle with time management or anything. I just kind of like doing it. I like writing. So I played the move king f1. I hit my clock. I looked at my time. I wrote it down. I realized I had only spent 4 minutes here. I was so locked in. I thought I had spent like 10, 12 minutes on this variation. And let me tell you this, you guys. Um, I was very confident in my variations, and I was very confident in the calculation I put towards it. But this actually, what I realized was this was a make or break type of move. When I played this king f1 move, I either was winning the game based off of the variations I calculated, or I was missing some way for black to basically hold, to find a resource, or I mean, I guess you could say in some cases win if I really miss something big. And so if I had taken just a little bit of extra time, hopefully I would have seen this resource of queen e3, queen d1. By the way, I had calculated all the way, sorry, the resource of queen e3, queen d3. I had calculated all the way till takes on d1 and thought I had won the piece in that variation. And I was just very close to actually being able to find this queen e3, queen d3 resource. And let me tell you guys this. If I had seen that resource, I would have realized that, okay, actually this whole variation is forcing and it's drawn. It's drawn. So, of course, I have this draw in my back pocket, but let's look for more. And what that more would have been is queen a7, rook f8, and then king f1, which I kind of saw. I put those two and two together at some point in my calculations, not actually why I was spending the 4 minutes, but the move prior. I had seen something like this. But I saw that black had rook b2, takes, and in my very, very, very brief calculations, I was like, oh, this is so annoying. Like, my bishop's attacked, my bishop doesn't have many squares, the pawn a3 is attacked, my king is still weak, and I completely missed, which, like I said, initially, there was, I think, one, maybe two people who had found this move, queen to e3. This is the consolidating move. This is the consolidating move. So the point is that with queen a7, right? And then rook f8, then king f1. And this whole variation is forced now. With queen to e3 now, we consolidate the pawn advantage. Now we have huge ideas of e5, e6. And actually, even more importantly after that, I saw rook c8. This is all some very brief calculations I had when I was playing. And I thought that this was also still problematic, but I have a very nice move, queen d3, gluing the position all together still. No rook c3 because of queen d8 and bishop f7. And so, once again, these variations were not necessarily easy to find. However, I was not the most disciplined that I could have been in my thought process and my time management. And someone had asked how much time I had. I had 23 minutes. So I went from 23 to 19 minutes. And if I spent a little bit more time, I very likely would have at least come close to finding this variation. Who knows? Right? Who knows? Maybe I would have still gone king f1. Maybe I would have played something else. Right? But the point being is that I was so close to my calculation being efficient and effective and almost being there. But it needed to take a little bit more mental discipline, a little bit more sort of kind of diving into the variations and looking for my opponent's resources and testing the variations a little bit more. But at the end of the day, I should have spent a little bit more time. And remember, you guys, the main reason I should have spent more time is because this move king f1 here, I had realized that it was basically a make or break move to where it either wins the game on the spot or there's still some more work to be done. And so yes, for you guys who are still unclear about the variation, that is the winning continuation of queen a7 here. Well, it's not winning. King f1, rook b2, followed by take, queen e3. So it's around +1 here. And okay, would I have won this game? Who knows? But I certainly would have been in control, in command, and the game would now be right back into me being in the driver's seat. So difficult variations, yes, but this is how we need to persevere, be more mentally disciplined, and go through these types of calculations. Test ourselves, right? Look for the resources. But of course, all along this way, keep in mind our opponent's resources and how we're supposed to tackle the position. All right. So I have a little bit of a fun next game to show you guys. Um, Around this time last year, actually, was when I gave the in-person U.S. chess school camp, right? Um, and the uh, the topic or the theme of the camp was swindling. I mean, the full theme that I had, or full kind of like name of the camp I had come up with was the science of, or the art of swindling and the science of conversion. It's just what I had called it. And so um, it's something that's been on my mind for many, many years. And the sort of thought within how to convert better, but actually also how to squeeze out half points or even full points when you're completely losing or on the losing side of positions is actually very interesting because a lot of it is sort of psychological. Because one of the things that I've sort of realized over the years of, having a lot of losing positions and saving them, is the fact that sometimes playing the objectively best move is not actually going to be the best way forward. So let me say it again. Playing the objectively best move, like the computer best move, is not always necessarily the best way forward. What we're trying to look for is ways to actually cause our opponents issues, practically speaking. And so I'm not saying that this game by any means is at all pretty. And I played the opening quite poorly. We're not going to take a huge look at it, but I was getting completely outplayed. And so I'm going to fast forward to a critical moment. I mean, it was an interesting game itself, the way that my opponent actually had outplayed me up to this point. But right around here, like let's say like right here, um, he has two pieces for the rook, and I am not really anywhere close to getting any sort of immediate counterplay. And the biggest thing is that I'm probably going to be dropping the b5 pawn, and with that, one of the queenside pawns for white will just roll down the board, right? And so at this point, I had around, I don't know, we both had around 20 minutes, let's say, and I was now in full swindle mode. I was thinking to myself, all right, if I'm going to have any chance in this game, I need to create practical chances. And once again, the way that I moved forward in the rest of this game was not like number one computer moves every move. However, I fully stand by this that the way that I played the rest of this game was 100% correct from a practical standpoint of putting pressure on my opponent to make accurate moves, to make accurate decisions. So let's start here. I was like, forget about this B pawn. I don't need it. Take it. F5. This is the start. This is where we try to apply some pressure. He went knight a7 to reroute the knight at c6. I said, okay, rook to a8. Knight's not going anywhere. Let's just stick it there. He goes b5. He's playing very naturally. He's just going to shove the b pawn, bring it to b6, and the pawn's close to queening. All right, f4. And now we kind of have pushed the bishop back. The king is opened up a little bit, but okay, we still don't have a knight. We don't have a light square bishop. It's still going to be very hard to, apply pressure over here on the king side. So what do? Of course, g5. We just continue. We continue. We fling the pawns over here on the king side. All right. So now this was actually a very critical moment. I felt that my opponent needed to be very accurate here already and not allow me to open up the king side while also having pieces sort of ready there to make some threats. So I actually thought he should have gone knight c6 here. Once again, it's actually not the best computer move, but practically speaking, I think this would have been one of the best choices because he actually gets his knight out of there, which actually brings another defender for himself and he still has the b pawn, right? So any endgame for him is still crushing. And so probably what I would have to do here is to take on a5 and go like king f7 and something like this. Put the bishop on like e5 and I don't know. I mean, I'm no longer going to get attacked. The queens are off the board and he's going to go like b6 and so he has this b pawn and I mean, this is not easy, but it should be winning. It should be fairly easily winning. So that is actually what I was the mostly concerned about because I was kind of excited about the prospects of opening up on the king side. So he went rook to e1, sorry, he went rook to e1 first, and now there's no more knight c6. He went b6, and now he went g4. And now I'm like, wait a second. He was starting to get a little bit low in time, and now the king side's opening up. So takes, and already the floodgates on the king side are open, and even though the computer is still crying out an advantage for white, because of course the computer defends perfectly, we're now really applying some huge pressure over here on the king side. Threats of g3, which actually, by the way, right now, trap the bishop. If he goes f takes g4, I go f3. And a move like, let's say, bishop to f1, already queen f4, and he's in huge trouble. Bishop comes to e5, threats of this, pawn on g4 is weak. This is already, big problems for white. So he played queen to b4, and now I went g3, and I've actually already swindled the game, not back in my direction quite yet, but almost. And he's now getting really low on time. He's below 10 minutes. And so this whole time, not only was I playing very aggressively and very practically, I've actually also played quite quickly to put him into time pressure. And so from a practical perspective, I did everything in my power to put him under pressure. And already at this point, after bishop d4, which is what he should have played, we can now actually go something like rook f e8. I think maybe, or maybe, sorry, rook a e8 is maybe slightly better. And okay, e file is open, the diagonals are open, his bishop on g2 is really bad, D5's hanging. This is already like, anyone's game now. But instead, because he felt the pressure, he tried to get a little bit too creative. He tried to actually get um, super accurate, and he felt the pressure. He felt the pressure. He went bishop h3. He sensed that it was maybe a moment for him to try to transition his advantage. And so he went bishop h3. All right, 2 minutes, you guys. Let's find the best continuation. 2 minutes, you guys. Black to play. Let's find the best continuation. Let's slow ourselves down and be accurate. Black to play here. All right, around 1 minute, you guys. All right, all right. So part of this swindling process is actually realizing when the swindle has been complete. As in, okay, now it's time to lock back in. Let's find good moves. All right. Not to say that in that whole swindling process, we're still not trying to find good moves. But of course, there comes to a point where actually we're no longer in swindle mode. We have to take ourselves out of that and we need to find the best continuation. And so many of you guys gave Jigs F2, which by the way is completely fine. And black still technically survives here, but it's already kind of difficult. I mean, for example, if you were to go queen h5 here, bishop e6, king h8, I mean, I think at best black has a draw. For example, what could maybe even just start running the oh yeah, now king g2 is not good, but running the king. And I mean, the problem is that this e file is closed, the c file is not really accessible to black's rooks. Um, the white king is going to hide itself in the light squares, and the pawn on b6 is really, really strong still. And so, taking on f2 is fine. I think black will still survive with best play there. But black is still actually under pressure. But no, we cannot miss our opportunities here. We cannot let this opportunity pass after we have completed this window. Queen to h5. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. This is the way forward. After king g2 takes bishop e6 here, rook h1 of course does not work because we win like this. So queen h5 is actually now just crushing. And this is the way moving forward. King g2 takes here. Now it's time to continue to be accurate. All right, we're actually now winning. f1 queen. Well, the computer gives f1. I have auto promote on, so I can't even do it. The computer gave f1 bishop. Okay, they're the same thing. But okay, f1 queen, f1 bishop. And black is now completely in driver's seat. White can obviously not take with the king because of f3, so white took with the rook. And now it's time for us to continue to be accurate. All right, now you guys are under time pressure. Okay, at this point, both of us had, I think, around 3 minutes. And so even though we're now back in the driver's seat, or not back, because we never were in the driver's seat, we are now in the driver's seat for the first time in this game. Let's try to be accurate. Let's not let up. This is not a time to let up. Black to play. Let's keep it going, you guys. But I'm gonna put pressure on you guys because I didn't have that much time. So, black to play. 1 minute. Find the best continuation. Let's see how your intuition is, you guys. 1 minute. Send your answers in. All right, last few seconds. Be decisive. Put your decision in the chat. I don't have time to look at everyone's, but you know, put your decision into the chat. The correct answer is Rook E8. Rook E8 is the best and the cleanest way forward. Now, I saw a few people give Queen C5, but this runs into something very important. Queen B3, or I guess, okay, Queen B5 maybe is a bit more accurate, but yeah, okay, Queen B5 allows the knight come back. I think Queen B3, maybe there's takes, enter to B8 perhaps. Yeah, but okay. Even trading the queens off already is not accurate anyways. Okay. So rook A8, bringing this poor rook that was on A8 into the game, covering the E file. And one of the main points, of course, is after bishop E6, we do not bring the king to H file, right? We sacrifice, and now go something like I think rook F6 is the way I was going to go. Yeah, I mean the king can't run. King goes F2, then we have queen here with the rook now covering to the coming to the E file. So my opponent here played rook F2. All right, one more minute, you guys. Continue to be accurate. This is how the game is continued. Black to play. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. Send those answers in. And please play better than I did in this position. All right. Unfortunately, I folded under the pressure. We both had less than 2 minutes here, and I played rook to e5. I thought this was actually natural because now if there's ever bishop e6, my rook is on the other side of the bishop, right? So the bishop, let's say, goes to e6, it cuts the rook off, but I kind of forgot that logically doesn't make too much sense because every time he goes bishop e6, I'm probably sacrificing anyways. So that was a bit of a logical fallacy on my end. And I had also forgotten about the fact that, well, if white goes bishop g4, if I go rook g5, well, I'm leaving myself with this rook on f8, which is not really ideal. That's actually why rook f6 is the way to go. Because on bishop to g4, we go rook g6. Or maybe actually we go... okay, we go queen h4. Sorry, yeah. Queen h4, because now the rook stays on the e file. Okay, my bad. Because on rook e5 here, because on bishop g4, queen h4, there is actually queen takes d6, is it? Or does white now go bishop d6? Sorry, I forgot my mouse a little bit. Not bishop e6 now. I thought it was queen takes d6, but maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was queen takes d6. Maybe actually knight c6 is okay. Yeah, I mean, I to be honest, either way, it doesn't really matter too much. The fact of the matter is, rook f6 is just infinitely better because after bishop g4, like let's say this variation queen h4, there is no even rook takes d6, and knight c6 does absolutely nothing, right? I mean, the rook's staying on the e file, so that wouldn't do anything for them. But okay, I mean, I actually spent a little bit of time here and I was stressing out a bit. And actually, I'm gonna be a little bit honest with you guys. I was still somewhat okay with the draw here because I was like, okay, I was completely lost this whole time. Let me just make sure that I at least have perpetual. And so I saw some variations of Rookie 5 where I had at least perpetual. And I was like, okay, let me just make sure I get out of here unscathed. So I was being a little bit, you know, I was not going for it all, but I also was not really going through the correct thought process and calculation process. There was so much adrenaline running, and okay, a lot of excuses, but we were quite low on time. So I went right to e5. But thankfully, he did not play bishop g4 or did not find the correct way forward. He actually was hovering over the bishop, and I was a bit concerned because I was uh, I was actually realizing that I'd made a little bit of a mistake with rook to e5, and I was actually supposed to be winning. But he took on d6. So he actually played queen c6 with like I think around 10 seconds on his clock. And now I found the way forward. Rook g5, he's forced to go here, and now I sacrifice, and now go queen d1, and now rook f6, and slide the king over, and I now win. So he resigned here, and the swindle was complete. Now, when all is said and done, um, of course, like it's fun to win games like this. It's not fun to have been outplayed for the first half of the game. But when it comes to actually playing practically, one of our main goals and one of our main kind of ambitions for a position like that is, put some pressure on, give our opponents some things to think about, and they'll make mistakes. Not all the time, of course, right? Our opponent can play accurately and win the game as they should. But if we simply just, bow down and, not be resilient and sort of just like let our opponents roll over us, then of course we're not going to have a single chance. But if we actually keep our options open, keep the possibilities open, fling the pawns, sure, that's what it looked like in this game, but not every game will look like that, right? Sometimes your counterplay or your resilience will actually look like, suffering in an endgame, right? Sometimes the way to actually hold a losing game might not be so fun. It depends on the position. In this case, there was no dry, boring endgame that I was going to be hold, right? Every endgame would be absolutely hopeless for me. Those A and B pawns would roll down the board. And so I absolutely had to play quickly, apply pressure down the king side, and hope for the best. And okay, it worked out. Um, and unfortunately, the next game I'm about to show you guys was equally as devastating, but I was on the other end of it. And I want to actually just quickly show you guys through it because honestly, there was not really many stopping moments in this. I played it interesting. It was not a good game, but it was an interesting game. And I was kind of rolling over him in this position. Right here, he was supposed to go e5 to counterattack my bishop, so the knight actually had the square on e6 to go to. But after knight a6, I just simply go b5, and I slid the queen to e2, and everything in the position is going well for me. I mean, like, everything. My His king is completely open. Sure, I'm down a pawn, but like there's pressure down the long diagonal. I'm probably mating him in various different ways if I play it accurately. And I mean, I even saw multiple different tempting sequences of how I would win here. And I just went with the safest one. I mean, I saw this variation of bishop to e5, followed by queen c2 and knight g4. But I was like, I don't want to, like cause myself any unnecessary concerns. And so I saw at 94, I saw that he had to go back to g7, and then I saw that like, okay, the knight on b4 is trapped, and I don't know why. I was being super super like just it's really really bad, but I was being really lazy, and I didn't want to go a3 because I was like, oh well, maybe he'll go like knight d5, or maybe he'll take on b5, and maybe he'll get two pawns for the piece. And once again, what do you guys notice? My mindset was super, super lazy, but not even just lazy, it was careless. All right. And so, even though my opponent actually was not intentionally trying to swindle me, I was swindling myself. I had 25 minutes to his like 1 minute, and I was completely crushing. And I was just getting so lazy with my thought process. I just wanted to, path the least resistance, trying to find the easiest win, and just really, really did myself in. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go 96 because now, okay, he has to go bishop to a8. If he were to take this, it's just easily winning. So he goes bishop to a8, and now I'll go a3. All right, that's the way to go. That's the accurate way to go because now the d file is closed up. The bishop on f4 controls the dark squares. Sure, go for it. You can take on b5 here, but I'll just take your knight. I mean, look, let's say I take on a8 first and then take the knight. Sure, you got two pawns for it, but you're still gonna get mated, and it's like, this is an easy win. And I saw knight d5, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll take here. He'll take here, and then I'll take here. I mean, this is completely crushing because equal material. His bishop on a8 is basically not a piece, and I have a pass pawn c6, and he's still getting mated. All right, this is good to go. And then he played 65 instantly, and I was like, wait a second, what did I just do? My knight's actually trapped, and he has two pawns for the piece. And so I was like, I actually took a couple of minutes, not even to really think about anything, but just to like, what am I doing? I had so many easy wins. And I was not really thinking back to the easy ones that I could have had, but I was like, why am I doing this myself? And it's over and over and over again. Like I keep doing this. I keep doing this. I mean, I have definitely swindled more games than I've gotten swindled. But I was just thinking to myself, like, oh my goodness, like I've never learned my lesson. I always keep playing carelessly. And actually, in the camp that I was mentioning last year, one of the biggest things that I was talking about in the quote unquote science of conversion, it is be objective. Do not get careless. It doesn't matter if you have an hour to their 1 minute. What's going to change if you spend an extra 10 minutes and think through the position and just make sure you get the job done? And so I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? And I knew that I was not losing here or anything, but I was like, oh gosh, okay, like, well, I know I messed it up, but I have 25 minutes and he has one. And I know that, like, okay, let me just choose an option. And let's just play. And so at this point, I just went into full collapse mode. You guys should take a seat, sit back, relax, enjoy the show, because I certainly did not. Knight f7 takes. Here I should have gone h4, which if I had a sane mind, I would have found. The point being is that we don't want the king to be on h1 stuck on this diagonal, and we actually have ideas of bishop h3 takes e6, but in this case, it doesn't work because there's bishop c5 and some d4. So I should have gone h4 here. That would have been the only way to actually still have a crushing position. And also, by the way, guys, after bishop to e5, here I missed rook d4, which is not like crushing, but I would have for sure won here. It's like +1, and black has to find only moves to not just instantly lose. Yeah, by the way, I missed that too. So I was in complete collapse mode. Takes. I puts out queen e6 because I was like, all right, let me just flag him and do whatever, and it'll be fine. Like I won't lose, right? Let me just play quickly. There's no way I'll lose. But he goes queen g6, and then he gives me a check, and then he plays d4. And at this point, I'm just like, what am I doing? There goes his terrible bishop for my good bishop. And so, for whatever reason, I still have no idea why. I was just still not calculating, still playing off of just desperation and, well, not desperation, but just frustration. And so I played bishop to e5 and then played d3. I'm like, what is going on here? Is this d pawn just running down the board? And why am I doing this? This is just completely awful. And to which it is. It is completely awful. Um, and one of the really, really dumb thoughts that I had was that I could go like bishop takes a8 here, and on takes here, I'll go rook e1, with the point being I have bishop d5, and it doesn't work for various reasons, but the simplest is just rook f1. Um, and so, I mean, yeah, I was just in complete collapse mode. I went queen a2 here. He took, and I blitzed out queen h2, even though it's dead lost. If I go king h2 here, he has queen e4, followed by queen d5, and I saw this endgame, and I saw that I was miserable here, and I didn't want to have anything to do with this. And okay, of course, I don't want to go for an endgame that's miserable, right? So instead, let's just get immediately mated. Takes in d2, and then rook d1, queen g4, and I resigned. And in the ending position, I still had 25 minutes on my clock, and he still had less than a minute on his clock. And yet, yeah, I'm dead lost. Um, and so not only did I not convert the position correctly, but on top of that, I did not compose myself, did not control my emotions, and I just blitzed out five, consecutive terrible moves, and I lost the game. And I would say actually in the past maybe few months, one of the things I've prided myself on is my mental discipline actually. And one of the main things I've talked to you guys about in the past few months has been how to control actually your thoughts and not make careless decisions. But clearly here, it was a very humbling experience because I am not immune, right? The kind of quote goes, when it rains, it pours, and it certainly poured in this game. Absolutely awful. Just a terrible, terrible sequence of events. And what I will say is I was completely devastated by this, of course. This was round six, by the way. And if I had won this game, I would have been 24-60. And I was feeling really good, by the way. I was feeling on great form. I was playing, I actually, the night before this game, I had played a really good game. And I had good success against Gary last few times we met. And so I was kind of feeling good going into the game. And then I also knew that in my last three rounds, I was playing against three of the opponents who were having not such a great event. And so I was like, okay, I'll finish off with a good note. And then I lost this absolutely devastating game. And I mean, like, you guys have probably heard about my kind of struggles over the past couple of years with getting the GM title, and it all just poured out in this game. Like I was just so devastated because 10 points is a lot. I mean, if you guys think about it, right? Like going from 24-50 or should have been 24-60 instead of 24-50. I mean, 10 points out of 50 points, that's 20%. 10 out of 50, right? That's 20%. 20% farther away from GM. And like on top of that, I had three games left, and it was literally just like a couple more accurate moves, I would have won this game. And in past events, if I were to lose a game like this, it would just be chaos mode. Just absolutely just crashing down, crash and burn, rain and pours, and not only pours, it's just a thunderstorm. But thankfully, I didn't have another game that day. I composed my thoughts. I realized, well, I was winning this game. Yeah, sure. And I made some big mistakes, but I gotta recollect my thoughts. I have to put myself in a better position for these last three games. And I finished 2.5 out of three. And the funny thing for this event, 9 rounds, I had five whites, four blacks. I won all four of my black games, and I went 2 out of 5 with white. So that's an interesting thing that I have to reevaluate for my tournaments moving forward. But I'm very thankful that I actually collected my thoughts, played some good chess to finish the event out, and here we are, 24-55. I'm feeling great about my chess as of late. Looking forward to my next event, Washington International, hoping to add some additional preparation into it. Once again, I hope that you guys enjoyed hearing my reflections on my games, also seeing, of course, some interesting moments. And okay, by no means has my thought process been perfect. I mean, you guys are seeing that right here, all laid out. And I hope that the reflections and the sort of even the stopping moments we've gone through that show the complexities in these positions, right? Like, you know, you're not going to figure these things out in these 2 to 5 minutes I'm giving you guys. All right, that's not really the point that I give it to you for. A lot of what it is to okay, get used to making some decisions, interact with the materials a little bit, have some fun with it, right? And at the end of the day, the hope is that as you guys practice the thought process, as well as see my reflections on my own thought process, that it trickles down a little bit into your guys' own games. Trickles down a little bit into your own thought process. And it's okay. Another day, another a lecture about my woes and my successes in my path to GM. Hopefully, by the next time you guys see me, I'll have had a successful Washington International. So for those of you guys who are there, feel free to say hi. And okay, good luck with all of your guys' next events. I know that the Barber Denker Rockefeller is coming up, as well as the U.S. Open and a lot of other events such as the Pan Americans and North Americans. So best of luck to you guys all. I'll be next lecture will be around a month from now after Washington International. So look forward to seeing you guys there. Okay, take care. Best of luck, everyone, and we'll see each other soon. All right, bye bye.